Google officially announced Wednesday it has achieved quantum supremacy. The tech giant says its quantum processor was able to perform a complex mathematical calculation in 3 minutes and 20 seconds. This same calculation would have taken the current most powerful supercomputer nearly 10,000 years.
Allison, pretty much everything in our lives involves a sort of rudimentary kind of computing. And I'm talking about everything. I'm talking about your blender. I'm talking about your phone. I'm certainly talking about things like my image being carried across whatever device it's being watched on. I mean, all of this happens using bits, ones and zeros in sequence, which is how all modern computing records and transmits information. And so, the amazing part of quantum computing is that it can do things that no current computer can do.
Well, like you say, a conventional computer stores information on its bits as either a state of 1 or 0, on or off, whereas the Sycamore computer's qubits can store information in a kind of in a superposition state of 1 or 0, or simultaneously 1 and 0, which is obviously very counterintuitive and confusing, but it's amazing. And of course, that opens up a whole new era of computing. So this is very, very exciting and very terrifying simultaneously, I would say.
So our whole lives could be revolutionized by this. We're not just talking about random, math experiments like the one they did today. We're talking about the development of new medicines, of new materials, of artificial intelligence, all of which depends right now on this very limited language of computing that we use. So the idea here is that if they really begin to go forward from this, and this is just a first step, but if they begin to really be able to deploy quantum computing in the way that they imagine, suddenly we're going to be able to have all kinds of incredible breakthroughs in the materials we make and the artificial intelligence we build and everything else as we go forward.
They've demonstrated with the quantum computer that it can perform a computation in seconds what would take the world's fastest supercomputer years, thousands of years, to do that same calculation.
IBM, which has its own quantum project, says Google's claim is exaggerated. The professor who first coined the term quantum supremacy says Google's breakthrough is a milestone, opening the door to new technology.
The current super basic first prototype version of a quantum computer can already do things a million billion times faster than a conventional computer. And this isn't a super advanced quantum computer. This is, the super early dawn first prototype quantum computer. So you can imagine in 20, 30 years from now, we won't even be able to predict it. Just like 100 years ago till today, we went from, the Wild West to the sci-fi metropolises of today. It will be the same kind of a thing. It could change everything, and there's no way we could even predict what that change will be. But it will be unrecognizable.
It does demonstrate how tight this race is, because it really becomes a question of, are supercomputers the future, or are these quantum computers actually the future, or is one just, as you said, right, theoretical over the other?
Yeah, they keep saying, IBM keeps calling these conventional supercomputers, and that's where we should be putting our attention. So I guess my final question here, Ben, amid all this trash talk, are these just all kind of a bid, and everyone's full of bluster and saying, my computer does this, my computer does that? Is this really just a race to get government contracts, government money?
Are you trying to say my computer's faster than yours, Manila? Is that what
bigger, better, faster, stronger?
Absolutely. But here's the thing. You answer your own question. Of course it's about money. It's always about money. When Google does anything, it's about being able to say, we have developed something so advanced that now not just the US government, but every government in the world is going to need to invest in what we're doing, because we have basically completely rewritten the rules. Forget about making a better mousetrap. We've invented something that no one had ever even thought of before, and so all other mousetraps are obsolete. It's not about better. It's about doing something completely advanced in another field. Whereas IBM is saying, no, don't buy into that. The real path forward is this one. So send us your money. So it's always about money. I think that's one thing that everyone can agree on. It's always about money.
Yeah, Ben, it's over my head, way above my pay grade. But the way I see it is, if there's no practical use, I mean, you're just wasting money anyway, right? So.
Well, real quick, but that's true. That's absolutely true. The question is that people could have said that about the original computer when it was created. What's the real practical use? And then you find out 30 years later we can't live without it.
True. Good point.
This is more than just a hobby for you and a fascination.
Oh yeah, no, this yes, no, it's very. I'm doing this because it's important. If we're going to continue to have a dynamic civilization where our grandchildren have better lives than we do, then we need to be sure we're using the resources of space to save this planet.
Amazon's innovations and acquisitions have sent its stock into the stratosphere.
So it may not surprise you to hear the company's founder has become the richest man in America. Jeff Bezos tops the annual Forbes ranking of the 400 richest Americans with a net worth of $160 billion, ending a 24-year run for Microsoft founder Bill Gates.
Billionaire Jeff Bezos' next venture is literally out of this world.
It's time to go back to the moon, this time to stay.
At a presentation in Washington, D.C., the Amazon founder and CEO on Thursday unveiled a mock-up of Blue Moon, a lunar lander Bezos says will ferry rovers, cargo, and eventually people to the moon.
In space resources, we have to use them.
The project would mark the first ever commercial moon landing.
A very fundamental long-range problem is that we will run out of energy on Earth. This is just arithmetic. It's going to happen.
The moon suddenly seems closer again. For CBS This Morning, I'm Mark Strassman.
Fascinating indeed. But to go to the moon and stay, I don't think so, Jeff. I'm going to stay right here and just track what you all are doing up there. Cheering you on.
Cheering you on.
But I don't want to go and stay.
You came along 2 years after Apollo 11, and yet space seems to be in your marrow.
Apollo 11 landing on the moon was probably the most inspiring thing in history. It certainly inspired me. I'm not sure SpaceX would exist if not for Apollo 11.
Elon Musk is the founder, CEO, and lead designer of SpaceX, short for Space Exploration Technologies. His privately held company makes rockets and spacecraft.
I kept expecting that we would continue beyond Apollo 11, that we would have a base on the moon, that we would be sending people to Mars. And here we are in 2019, the United States actually does not yet have the ability to send people even to low Earth orbit.
Which is why SpaceX is one of the companies that delivers cargo to the International Space Station, while the Russians transport crews. That's because NASA's space shuttle program ended in 2011.
It may be sad about the future. You know, when you get up in the morning, what fires you up? Like, what gets you excited about being alive?
Elon Musk isn't the only billionaire thinking big.
Release.
Richard Branson's Virgin Galactic will offer commercial space flights for tourists. And Amazon's Jeff Bezos has founded Blue Origin in hopes of building space colonies.
I think it's good what Jeff Bezos is doing with Blue Origin. You know, occasionally I'll rib him a little bit, but I think it's good what he's doing.
And Musk isn't only thinking big, he's thinking fast. Regular trips to the space station?
To launch crew to the space station?
Crew to the space.
My guess is about 6 months.
Visiting the moon?
Well, this is going to sound pretty crazy, but we're certainly with an uncrewed vehicle, I believe we could land on the moon in 2 years.
But always on his horizon, the planet Mars.
Sending crews to Mars in 4 years, I think that sounds pretty doable. Internally, we would aim for 2 years, and then reality might be 4.
What would space tourism look like?
Well, space tourism is going to start with a very short, kind of 11-minute ride up into space. You'll be able to see the thin limb of the Earth's atmosphere and see how fragile this planet really is. Everybody who goes to space says they come back a little changed and they realize how beautiful this planet is and how small and fragile it is. Something that we can't see when we're down here, but from up there it becomes obvious.